Before we dive in, today's episode is brought to you by More Biz Spots, your connector for business spaces right here in Moore County. Whether you need an office for the day, a conference room for your team, or a venue for your next big idea, More Biz Spots helps you find the perfect space, connecting people to spaces and spaces to opportunity. That's what we do. Learn more at morebizspots.com.
Imagine more stories that soar, business, life, and so much more. Laughs, lessons, and local delight. It's the podcast that feels just right. It's the Imagine More podcast.
Welcome to the Imagine More podcast, where we bring you the stories that shape our community, the people who lead, serve, create, and imagine more for the Sandhills and beyond. I'm your host, Rose Young, and today's guest is someone whose entire life has been rooted in service, leadership, and heart for this community. Major Mark Dutton is a Moore County native, a career wildlife officer, a lifelong volunteer, and now a candidate for NC House District 78. Over the last 30 years, he's worn many hats, from wildlife officer to major, from coach to church member, from father to mentor, always working to make North Carolina safer and stronger. We're going to talk about his journey, what drives him, and the values that have guided him through decades of public service, and now into the world of public leadership. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rose. I'm glad to be here.
Let's start at the beginning, Mark. You grew up right here in the Sandhills, surrounded by longleaf pines and that sense of small-town connection. What was your childhood like, and how did growing up here shape the man you've become?
Childhood in the Sandhills was incredible. Matter of fact, I just grew up right down the road from where we're at now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Aberdeen, and just across the railroad tracks, actually. So I spent a lot of time in the woods and places around here. But Moore County was just a small town community. I mean, there were separate towns, but, everybody knew each other. You grew up with the same people. You went to school with the same people. You went to church with the same people. And it was just a small sense of community. And it was just one of the places that was great to live in. It's a great area to live in, and it still is. It hasn't changed very much.
Has it not?
Well, I think about it, and I talk to people, and they start asking about things, and I go back in history, and I'm like, gosh, I remember this, or I remember that, and they're like, wow, you've been here a long time. And I was like, well, I don't think about it that way, but it's 50 years is a long time.
Oh, yeah.
So I have seen a lot of change here, but it still has the small town sense of culture and places that really haven't changed a whole lot. And if you look at the downtowns and places like that,
Right.
It's sprawled out, and obviously population has increased dramatically, over the years. But other than that, I mean, there's still a lot of the same people and families here that I grew up with, and
No kidding.
those types of things. So, it's just one of the places that was a fun place to be a kid and go to school and churches and
Right.
hang out with people. And my grandfather's brother ran the movie theater for years and years and years in downtown Southern Pines, and
Did he really?
Town and Country Cinema, so everybody knew him.
That was my first job.
Really?
Well, not here, but
Okay.
a movie theater.
So I spent a lot of time at the movie theater.
I bet so.
And then I
yeah.
had family that ran the skating rink here, so
Oh,
I
no
spent a lot of time at the skating rink. So you kind of just got to know a lot of people being in
yeah,
those types of places.
cool.
So that was part of my childhood and the things that I remember.
Yeah, so you mentioned that your passion for conservation and public service started young. What drew you toward the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission? Was there a moment when you just knew that was your calling?
My family grew up in the country, and I started hunting fishing and hunting both at a very young age. I was fortunate enough to have family members, my cousins and my uncles that introduced me to hunting and outdoors. And I just grew up around it. And it was just something that I had a passion for. And it was something that, I really enjoyed. And it was a way to be, out in nature and out and with your friends and different things. But it was also a time to learn about responsibility and ethics
That's
and
true.
morals
Definitely
and those
so.
types of things. And then, later on, when I got a little older and started kind of thinking about things to do, I was I was in public safety at an early age. I started on the fire department actually here as a 16-year-old.
Oh,
So I
really?
spent a lot of time, around police officers, and a lot of family members were police officers and firemen and those types of things. And I worked at a hotel here in town actually from a young age, from the time I was 14. And a lot of the biologists for the Wildlife Commission used to come and stay at the hotel
Oh, that's cool.
because they
Yeah.
because they did game checks stations and things down on the Sandhills game lands, which were really close by, and they spent their time there. And I would talk to them and ask them about their jobs and those types of things, and it was just very interesting to me. And I didn't think about that path at the time. I was thinking about going to college and being in business and those types of things. And I did actually spend a few years out of college in business before I went into the Wildlife Commission. But early on, it's just those being around the outdoors and hunting and fishing and
Right.
things like that that just drove me to being a conservationist and wanting to protect the heritage and the culture for,
Nice.
generations to come and those types of things. So I think just early on, it just something that, got into my heart and never got out. And then when I had the opportunity to try to do it, it was one of those things where it just kind of struck me, and I tried to find out more about it and how to be an officer. I had a friend of mine who was an officer here that I knew and I talked to, and
Uh-huh.
everybody told me, "Oh, it's impossible! It's impossible! You can't do it."
Oh, really?
3,000 people apply for 20 positions,
Oh,
and
gosh, I've heard that.
well, it was very competitive, and it still is today, and we're very fortunate to be that way. And I think when I applied, I don't remember the actual numbers, but it was over 13 or 1,400
Oh,
applicants.
my gosh.
And I was one of 16, I think, or 20 started maybe. I think we graduated 16 or something like that.
Really?
But yeah, it was very competitive. It was hard to get into, and I was very fortunate to have a good education and a good background that helped me be competitive in the selection process, and kept myself in pretty good shape. So that was as well something that was needed and necessary. But those are some of the things that kind of drove me to the Wildlife Commission early on.
Well, that is really a cool story that you were working at the hotel and you had met those biologists and that piqued your interest. That's,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, that's, the universe setting things up,
Everything's
synchronicities.
connected. I mean, it really is. It's crazy.
So you've had a 30-year career starting in Halifax County, then rising through the ranks to become Major of Support Services. When you look back, what are you most proud of from your time with wildlife enforcement? And what is Major of Support Services?
Okay, let's talk about that first,
Okay.
because that's kind of more recent and new to me.
Okay.
Major Support Services is basically responsible for the overall administration of the agency or the division. We have about 230 sworn officers, positions, and then some support people as well, dispatchers and administrative staff and those types of things. So my responsibility was basically the budget for the whole
Okay.
department,
Oh,
which
gosh.
was about $25 million total.
Oh, my goodness.
And then for procurement, purchasing, I was responsible for fleet management, purchasing boats, purchasing vehicles, outfitting, things like that. I was responsible for shipping and receiving, internal affairs, training, hiring, the training division and the basic school. I
Good
wore a lot of
night.
hats.
Yeah.
It was a lot of
It's
responsibility.
a huge
I was
amount of
the
responsibility.
boating law administrator, which was a big part of my job as well. I managed the abandoned derelict vessel program,
Oh, you did?
which was extremely difficult. I worked closely with state legislators and lawmakers and
Uh-huh.
people in the commission, and working on revamping laws and writing laws and those types of things. So I spent a lot of
Really?
I spent a lot of time dealing with that, and
Uh-huh.
at that level, I was basically a assistant chief, and at that level, you deal with a lot of things,
I bet so.
a lot of politics, and that's kind of what struck my
Ah.
interest a little bit in
Oh,
politics.
there you
So
go.
there's a lot in state government. Obviously, there's a lot of things that are connected, but that was just a big part of my job, and I was responsible for a lot of things, but I had a lot of good people that worked
Oh,
with
that
me
makes
and
a
for me.
difference.
Yeah, it makes a lot of difference.
Okay, so what are you most proud of when you look back?
So, there's nothing I'm not gonna say individual accolades or awards or anything like that because, those just come with for me, those come with hard work and doing the right thing and being dedicated to the profession. I think for me, the most things that I'm most proud of are the impact I had on a large number of people, being able to hire people, being able to train people and shape them into becoming officers that they were. So I had a good opportunity over the years, probably about the last 15 years of my career, to impact a lot of people. I was involved in a lot of things with hiring boards and training and, and,
Uh-huh.
and those types of things. So for me, it's just passing on the knowledge and
Passing on the knowledge.
passing on the skill set and keeping the culture and the heritage of what we like to call ourselves game wardens because that's what we are.
Yes, okay.
And passing on what it is, what it means to be a game warden because
Educating the youth.
a lot of kids these days don't grow up with the opportunities to
No, it's
hunt and fish
true.
and be
Yeah.
involved in things. And so for us, it's very difficult now to get people that have the skill sets to be able to go into the profession.
Oh, wow.
So I would say that. I mean, obviously I worked on a lot of projects. I was involved in a lot of things. One of the things that I was involved with before I retired was the building and development of our training center, which is actually located here in Moore County.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and
Uh-huh.
so we built a $10 million training facility on the
Oh.
property of Department of Public Safety out at Samarkand and
Uh-huh.
Eagle Springs area.
Yeah.
And I was a large part of that project for several years, over the time. And I was fortunate enough to be able to work on that project before I retired and get it open. And it's up and running. We've already had a first academy graduate
Have you really?
through the academies,
Oh,
through the training
nice.
center. And we use it for a lot of collaboration and partnerships with other agencies and
Oh,
things. So
yeah.
it's a great facility, and I'm very proud of that.
Oh, nice. Now, is it as competitive getting into this business as it was before? I mean, since there's not as many opportunities for kids.
Yeah, it's competitive, but it's not. It's that you don't have the numbers.
Right.
It gets very competitive when it gets down to your education and your experience and the things
Yes.
that when you start hiring and looking at 16 to 20 people. I spent a lot of time looking at how people were brought up and obviously you got to stay out of trouble and
Right.
do the right thing to be
Yes.
sworn as a law enforcement officer. So there's a big part of it there, what your background is, also your education and what your field of education was.
Mm-hmm.
We hire a lot of people that come from different backgrounds in education, from school teachers to biologists to engineering. I mean, just people come
Right.
from all different types of backgrounds for this profession, and it's not just people think, oh, you went to school for wildlife management or something like that, and that's
Right.
not
That's not
always the
it, huh?
case. And
Okay.
one thing I did is I hired a lot of prior military people,
Yes.
people who were coming out of the military looking for new
Right.
professions. I hired a lot of college athletes.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, so those are the things I looked at because I knew those people were able to juggle the academics and the
Right.
athletics and the time
Discipline.
management, the discipline
Uh-huh.
and the ethics because they've already been through some type of structure.
Oh,
And
interesting.
we're very structured. Our agency's very structured, very hardcore standards, and those are the type of people that can be successful.
What would you say to someone young out there that has their interest piqued listening to the podcast and think to themselves, I want to do that?
Start young. Get to know people in your community, get to know the officers. We do a lot of hunter education and youth sports and youth shooting sports programs.
Okay.
And so being involved in some of those things, getting involved in anything to do with public safety at a young age. You've got a lot of law enforcement agencies that have the youth programs and those types of things, cadet programs. So
Yes.
there's a lot of opportunity to not only get, into the law enforcement field, but to see if you're interested in going into the wildlife side of law
Right.
enforcement because it's different. It's a totally different animal than just, regular law enforcement.
I bet so. Yeah. And there's so much more to it too. I mean, and some scary things. I guess it's all got a few scary things, right?
A little bit over the years. I won't go into that right now.
No. Okay, so you've held leadership roles that carried a lot of responsibilities. Okay, we've seen overseeing training, the budget, emergency operations, internal affairs, and even managing the state's boating law administration. That's a lot of puzzle pieces to put together. What did leadership mean to you in that environment, especially when mentoring and training the next generation of officers?
Leadership, gosh, we ask this question and we talk about every interview. I've conducted hundreds of interviews and and been in a lot of them too. Every interview we talk about leadership and
Yes.
leadership is, one of those things that just carries a lot of different meanings.
It's true.
And for me, leadership was one, leading by example, doing the things that I'm asking other people to do, being out there involved and still involved in the things that even at that level, the field officers were involved in and them seeing you participate and being active
Right.
and staying in touch. But for me, it was more of, putting good people in place around you, qualified people, and then empowering them to be able to do their job and not micromanaging, giving them the resources and the tools necessary to be able to be successful and just helping them make my job easier.
Right.
Because
right.
when you have good people around you, your job's very, very easy.
And more fun too.
And more fun. And mine was just more of the stress side of it, dealing with the
Yes.
stress side, the things that behind the scenes that people didn't really see, and those types of, personnel issues. Yeah, every agency or private organization or whatever deals with problems, and we have ours as well, just like anything else, and you
Yeah.
have to deal with those, and those are the hard parts of the job, and that's sometimes that's leadership is making decisions that aren't necessarily popular
That's
to
right.
everybody, and
That's right.
unfortunately that has to be done, and it's not fun, it's necessary, and we have a high standard and a high level of integrity in our agency and law enforcement in general, and you have to maintain that level of standard.
Yes. So integrity and professionalism are at the heart of your work. How did those values guide your decisions, especially in challenging moments?
Just always trying to do the right thing for the agency, for the people. I looked after, our folks as much as I could, until I couldn't. And that's what we, always in a leadership role, in positions, we always tell people is we'll take care of you and we'll back you until we can't.
Until we can.
Until we can. And sometimes those hard decisions are guided, is what your integrity and your values guide you to. And I've sat in my office and cried with officers that were about to lose their job over something. And, we all make mistakes. None of us are perfect.
That's
and,
true.
And we try to work through those as much as possible. But, sometimes it gets to a position where you just can't do it anymore.
There's a point.
And there's a point.
Mhm.
And my heart breaks because we're a small agency and, all these people are our friends and people we work together and train together and do stuff with. And it's very hard when you get to a position of, having to decide somebody's, career and future.
Yes.
And that makes it very difficult because we're all, families are close and those types of
That's
things.
right.
And even though it's a big state and, we're spread out all over the place, we're still a pretty close-knit agency.
Are you still hunting and fishing and getting out in the wood?
Not as much as I'd like to.
Yeah.
My youngest son is he's all about hunting. So
Is he? How old is he?
He's 18.
Okay.
And he's all about it. So I try to take him as much as possible, and he goes more than I do actually. But I was still working the last hunting season, so didn't really have a lot of opportunity and time there. But we do some trips and go on some fishing trips and those types of things, and go to the beach and like to surf fish and go out on the boat when we can. But yeah, I do a little bit.
So you received the Governor's Order of the Longleaf Pine, one of the highest honors in our state, Mark. What did that moment mean to you personally?
I don't really measure my success or my career by awards I was fortunate and not fortunate actually to be involved in a lot of things that were very tragic in my career, life-saving search and rescue missions and floods. I worked through 2 500-year floods where, we were the first ones on the front lines,
Oh,
pulling people out
gosh.
of trees and off top of roofs and
Oh, my goodness.
those types of things. And it's, those are the types of things that you look back in your career and you really don't think about it a whole lot until you get to the end and you start unpacking some of those things that you really were involved in and seeing your career, and some of those very tragic boat accidents and hunting accidents and things where, fatalities were involved, and you had to, tell somebody their loved one is not coming home, and,
Ah,
and those types of things. But as far as the Longleaf Pine Award, it was pretty special to me because, actually growing up here in the Sandhills
yes,
and being around and
yes,
knowing what the Longleaf Pine stands for, and working the Sandhills game lands, it's thousands and thousands of acres of longleaf stand and longleaf pines that we have here with Fort Bragg and the Sandhills game lands. We're surrounded by hundreds of thousands of acres of longleaf pine, which is,
yes.
you know, not very many places in the world can say that anymore.
No.
So it's very important to me, protecting the lands and the things that I did over time. That Longleaf Pine Award kind of was something that was a little more special to me than anything else. And I appreciate the honor to be able to be a part of that fraternity, and it's very special to me.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So you've been deeply connected to Moore County even when you're not here. You're coaching baseball, golf, leading the West Pine Middle School Boosters, serving on the State Employees Credit Union Advisory Board. The list goes on. How do you think community involvement shapes leadership, especially in a place like Moore County where everyone is connected?
Yeah, being around youth, obviously my children grew up playing sports and being in school, so it helped me be around my children as much as anything else, but it
That's
also
right.
gave me an opportunity to impact, other youths in the community, and give them the foundations, the necessary foundation to become successful in whatever they want to do. And sports guides those things. It's not, not everybody's going to be a professional athlete, obviously,
Right.
but anything that the sports related also helps shape people's lives, making good decisions and
Very
learning
true.
rules and learning ethics and learning morals and those types of things. So
Motivation, responsibility,
absolutely,
self-discipline.
all of that, and that's what
Mhm.
goes back to why I was saying I used to hire a lot of athletes. But for me, it was just being involved, being able to be involved with the community. I have a hard time saying no, and
Do you?
that's kind of where I was in.
Me too.
Maybe the only one that raised my hand when we needed this. But I started coaching baseball with the Sandhills Optimist Club actually when I was out of college. I was before I had children, and so in my early 20s, I got involved in coaching baseball here in
Did
Southern
you? Before
Pines.
you had kids?
Before I had kids and before I went to work for the Wildlife Commission, actually, I was in business here working in Southern Pines. My boss that had I was an insurance agent actually, and he sponsored a team. So
Yeah.
his kids were on the team. So I ended up,
Oh,
being a coach of that
yeah.
team, and then, that led to some other things. But so that kind of started there. My great grandfather started the Little League baseball program in Southern Pines in
Nah.
1953, if I'm not mistaken,
Oh, how cool
with the
is
Lions
that?
Club. So, and my dad was on the
Yes.
first teams for
I love
Southern
your
Pines Little
history
League.
here.
So there's a lot, and that's why I say going back, I was like, I don't think about it, but 50 years is a long time, and me and my family's obviously been here forever. But I enjoy being around the schools. I don't do any of these anymore, other than maybe a little coaching from time to time. But I had to give up some of the positions, and the State Employees Credit Union, I was on that for 9 years, and that's a term limit thing. It's actually 8 years, and I got a COVID year, so
Oh, yeah.
so they kept me around for a little bit longer, and that's a good opportunity to be involved in the community as well, and just knowing people and being around parents. And I met, you form so many relationships, and you meet so many people in those environments and those settings.
True.
And a lot of folks here, a lot of military people here, so I met a lot of military people through coaching their children and
Right.
those types of things. So that leads to just relationships over time, and and that all comes back to you at some point. And I'm seeing that now, and some of the things I'm doing now with running for office is, some of these people that I met and formed relationships with years
Uh-huh.
ago and over time are people that are involved in things that I'm doing now, or
Right.
supporting me, or whatever. So anything that I could do in the community, my family was always, serving things and different things in the community. So that was just something I gravitated to.
So, 25 years of coaching young people then. What lessons from coaching translate into life lessons you hope your players carry with them?
For me, it's, learning what teamwork's all about, that you're stronger together than you are as an individual. And,
Stronger together than you are as an individual.
yeah, and that's just, I mean, that goes with everything in life. And that's just something, working in my position over the years. I mean, we were very much alone a lot of times because we were so spread out geographically and we didn't have a whole lot of support. So, learning how to get people around you to make you stronger, forming those relationships and bonds, and getting people to form a team. And teamwork's very big in law enforcement. I mean, we're dependent upon a lot of things, not just in your agency, but outside agencies and other people and first responders and those types of things. So just forming those values that lead you to understanding teamwork and responsibility and rules and like you said, motivation and ethics and all those types of things. And it just it carries with you for your anything you do. I mean, I have two children that were very successful in athletics and still are, and their values in sports and what they learned has helped them become the young men that they are today. And I put a lot of emphasis on them being involved in team sports and being around people and other coaches and people having opportunities to mentor them. And them having those good positive role models in their life. And that's just kind of what I always tried to do and be for the kids that I was involved with.
So did your kids, talk about your kids first. So you and your wife, Maggie, have raised two sons, Colin and Liam, both student athletes. How has being a dad shaped your leadership style, both professionally and personally? And tell me, did you always make sure they were in sports growing up?
I gave them opportunities, and I shouldn't say we gave them opportunities because my wife is just as much responsible for that as I am. And she spent as much time, in the yard throwing baseballs and taking them to practice, and it's probably more taking them to practice and those types of things. Especially early in my career when I had didn't have a lot of free time. But talking about my kids and my wife, and I kind of get a little emotional sometimes about that. But my boys started doing things, very young, and we gave them baseball bats, and like any other parents, you give them baseball bats and gloves and balls, and my oldest son Colin, he started swinging a golf club, I think, when he was about 18 months old.
Really?
And he just gravitated toward golf. He was very good at golf and baseball up and through his middle school years into high school, and he came up playing tournament golf here in the U.S. Kids, and what a great program that is, and just ended up coming through junior golf and competitive golf, and I was fortunate to go to high school here and play high school golf and win the state championship.
Oh, congratulations,
his senior
Jeff! That's
year.
So cool.
Yeah, they have Pinecrest has a great program, good coaches and good mentors and those things. And he was fortunate enough to get a scholarship and go to play golf in college.
Oh, that's what he's doing now then.
Well, he just graduated. So
did he? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he played 3 years at Wingate University, and he had broke a lot of records, won some tournaments, did a lot of good things, was academic All-American, was all-conference, all those things.
My goodness.
And he ended up transferring to UNC Greensboro for his senior year just because he wanted to play at a higher level and wanted to be, at a more competitive level in Division I. And it was a great decision. He had a great career, a great senior year. He actually ended up winning his conference championship as an individual, was able to go play in NCAA regionals.
Oh, how proud are you?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was great.
Yeah.
And we walked a lot of miles. I'll tell you that. Following him on the golf course, 36 holes a day in some days. And, up and down hills.
How do you do such a thing?
Oh, my goodness. A lot of motivation. But we were very proud of him, and he just graduated. He actually works for Golf Pride here in town.
Does he?
Yeah, and he just got engaged.
Oh.
So he's moving fast.
To a hometown girl?
Yeah, she lives here.
Yeah.
And she's in school, but she lives here. And so my youngest son, let's talk about him a little bit because I'm just as equally proud of him. He's 18. He's a senior at Pinecrest. Grew up the same way, coming up through the Optimist Club and playing baseball. And he played junior golf as well until he was about 10 years old and decided that he wanted to play baseball full time. And he's the catcher here at the Pinecrest team. And he plays a lot of travel baseball and those types of things. So we spent a lot of time over the years on the weekends traveling around, going to those things. And right now he's in a position where he's going to some camps and talking to some colleges and looking at where he wants to go. Yeah, it's a little bit past time, but he actually had an injury this year and it kind of set him back some, but he's recovering and he's doing well, and they're already, practicing, gearing up for the spring season, and we're excited about that. But, he's a great student athlete, and that's very big for us is the student comes first. And my oldest son graduated with honors. Even being on the golf team and having to travel and juggle all that, it's built him, made him where he is today, and he's got a very good work ethic. I mean, that's something I been very strong about over the years for both of my children is a strong work ethic.
Yeah.
Because I started working when I was 14 years old,
Yeah.
and that's all I've done my whole life. So
Me too.
yeah, but yeah, for them, very proud of them, and my wife's very successful. She's a hard worker.
What does she do?
She has an interior design business, and she also has a kitchen cabinet, business over in Pinehurst.
Okay.
So she does a lot of that. That's pretty much her profession, and she stays busy. So she's in the building and, remodeling, new construction, some commercial, those types of things as well. She works hard, so she spends a lot of time with that. But fortunate, she worked for herself most of her. She used to have a store as well, retail store in Pinehurst, but closed it several years ago. But she's been able to juggle her profession and the children, and she spent a lot of time, taking kids to school and taking them to practice, and all the things that stay at home can have an opportunity to do.
Right, because
we
she
take
had
for granted.
Yeah.
So it was helpful for me because I didn't have a lot of flexibility. For me, it was I was working, and there were some times I was able to do things, when I was a supervisor here in this area. But when I went to Raleigh and spent my last 7 years and basically working out of Raleigh, I didn't have a whole lot of time to be at home, doing those types of things.
Did you go back and forth every day?
Most days.
Most days?
Yeah, I traveled a lot across the state just to different things, but I spent a lot of time in headquarters office.
So it sounds like it wasn't a 40-hour-a-week job.
No. No, I don't think I've ever had an hourly job.
Yeah.
So I worked a lot. I was available a lot. I can just tell you that.
After 3 decades in public service, you could be spending your retirement traveling, fishing, cheering on your sons, which I know you plan to do anyway. But instead, you're stepping into something new, running for the North Carolina House District 78. What made you decide it was time to take this next step into public office?
Ooh, great question. I've been a public servant my whole life. That's all I know. I started thinking about what I could do, after retirement.
You weren't ready just to sit around and...
No, I wasn't ready. I thought I was.
Did you?
About went crazy.
Yeah.
But,
how long did it take before you went crazy?
Yeah, about 3 months.
Yeah.
and so, I started thinking about what I could do after retirement, in the local level or the state level. And me being involved in state government and being around state government, and I spent some time on John Street, and I spent some time around lawmakers and still do, in my profession and some of the projects we did and some of the laws and things that we worked on. And,
right.
So matter of fact, I'm going up there this week to attend a meeting and see some of my old coworkers, but my colonel was retiring the end of this month, so I'm going up to see him and wish him well. So so anyway, I started thinking about that and being around, those types of decisions and being at that level. I knew that that's where I wanted to go. I didn't want to do something in local government here and those types of things. I knew I wanted to be at the state level.
Okay.
And I started looking into it, and truthfully, a few years ago, they redistricted Moore County and chopped it up a little bit. So there's three districts in Moore County for the House of Representatives. And, after they kind of redrew the lines, I didn't even know who my representative was.
Oh,
I had to even go to look it up.
So we have 3.
You have 3 in the area.
And District 78, what are the other 2? Don't know?
51 and,
and
21, I think. I'm not really sure. I have to look it up and see.
That's something we have to look up, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I have it here. I just don't have it right in front of me. But so I started looking into it, and I was like, I started talking to people and, seeing, hey, what do we need here in the county?
Right.
What do we need in there? What are we missing?
Right.
And for me, it was the people I talked to. Most people just like now couldn't even tell you what district they lived in.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Still, I have people right now saying, "Oh, I'll vote for you." Well, you don't live in my district, so you can't vote for me. But I appreciate it. So that was one part of it. And then when I asked people, who was your representative? Do you know who your representative is? And a lot of people can't tell it.
No, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, so
I don't know what district I'm in.
That's very important. It's very important. So that's part of it, and just knowing that the impact at that level and those decisions that are being made, and just having some local hometown representation. I mean, I know Moore County. I know the people. I came up through the schools here. Worked here, raised my family here. I still have a lot of family here in the area. My mom's family's been in this area since the 1700s. My dad's family's been in this area since the early 1900s, and we just have a lot of roots in this area. And it was
Yes.
just something important to me to be able to, one, give back to the community in a position that I felt like I could, be effective in.
Right.
And that's kind of what led me to the House seat. And, hopefully that's something that, we're going to be able to do and
Oh,
make happen. And I'm,
yeah.
I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the opportunity just to be able to do it and get out and, talk to people and meet people. And,
Yeah.
I think I know a lot of people, but you start looking around, you're like, oh gosh, I don't know many of these people anymore. There's a lot of new people here.
There
So,
are a lot of new
so
people.
we've got to figure out a way to reach those people and let them understand what we're about and what our campaign's about, and what my decision making is going to be and how I'm going to form those decisions. and
Yes.
and for me, it's about representing the people.
Representing the people.
Representing the people. And that's what your title is. You're a representative, and that
Right.
means you represent your people.
Yeah. Well, you just inspired me to go figure out what district I am in and who is my district representative
Yeah,
right now.
you're actually right on the line here.
Am I?
Yeah, I think so. I think you may be in 51, but I'm not 100% sure. I have to look at the map. The maps
Okay.
are just a little bit,
Wonky.
yeah.
So, what do you see as the biggest opportunities and challenges facing Moore County and our region right now?
I think they're actually the same. Our opportunities
Oh.
are our challenges. People want to come here.
Right.
It's a great place to
That's
live.
true.
It's an incredible place to live. People want to gravitate here and move here. We got
Yes.
great schools. We got great business. So I think that's part of our challenges is how do we get those people here and how do we
Right.
accommodate? Do we have, infrastructure? How do we, develop our infrastructure, schools and highways and hospitals and all the things that are
Yeah.
important for population growth? And like I said, I can remember this being a super small town, and Aberdeen, Pinehurst, and Southern Pines were pretty much one community.
Yes.
And now, they've all just, ballooned and grown, and not a lot's changed. Our road systems haven't changed that much. Our infrastructure hasn't changed that much. We haven't built a high school here, I think, over 50 years.
Oh, my goodness.
So there's
Yeah.
a little
And all the
overgrowth
influx
in
of people
population,
coming.
and I think it's important that we make sure that if we're going to have people come here and move here, and we're going to build new developments and homes, that
Yeah.
we can handle it, and the community can handle it, because
Right.
obviously it's inevitable. It's just a matter of just making sure we're doing the right things and we're
Right.
putting the right systems in place to be able to support it.
What are some of the things that you can do as a House representative to make sure that happens?
Just look after local communities. I mean,
Okay.
help with the decision making for local municipalities in the county, and
Mhm.
and you make sure that you're supporting bills that are important to the people in
Yes.
your community and in a state. And it's a statewide position, so your bills impact the whole state, but you also have to take the voice of the people and the will of the people as
Right.
well. And when you're making those decisions, you're not doing them for the wrong reasons. And for me, it's listening to people, listening to what the people want in the community and what the
Mhm.
community wants. And like I said, sometimes you make decisions that aren't the most popular.
That's right.
Can't please everybody all
No.
the time. And you have to make those decisions in the best interest of the totality of the circumstances. And you have to look at the big picture. And that's something
Right.
I've always tried to do, is have that 30,000 feet view of, what we're decisions that we're making
we're
and how they
going.
impact
Mhm.
different people, and who are your stakeholders, and, who are your constituents, and those types of things.
Right.
And that happened, when my last job, we had over 1 million constituents, that are people that were participating in regulated activities, and we had to make rules and laws that, that govern those things. And
Mhm.
sometimes those can be a little bit, contentious. And, like I said, you're not going to satisfy everybody all the time, but you make those decisions for the best interest of the whole.
Right. Do you think that we're growing too quickly, or, are we on the road to having our infrastructure in? I don't really even know how to ask
Yeah.
that question,
I
Mark.
think we're trying to balance. I think you got to have a
Mhm.
balance, and you see the roads being widened, and you see
Right.
some of those things, and the hospital growing, and
Right.
schools being built, and those types of things. And I think water and those are very important
Yes.
to make sure we can provide the natural resources for people as well. And
Mhm.
and I think we're doing a pretty good job of it.
Okay.
I think there's some things that are happening right now, and there's some decisions being made that are kind of impacting that. And I don't want to get into that too deep, but I think those are some of the things in the next couple of years that we really got to be careful about,
Right.
and make sure we're making the right decisions for the right reasons. And and we're supporting the right things because, people moved here for a reason, or you
Right.
either moved here for a reason or you stayed here for a reason. It's
Exactly.
one of the two. And what was that reason? And, a lot of people don't want to live in that type of community, or, they would have moved to a city, Charlotte or Raleigh or,
Yeah.
Cary or whatever. So we got to make sure we maintain, try to maintain the core values of what our community is and the purpose of, what it was founded on.
Right.
And then the reason people want to be here. Obviously we've got the military here. There's a big influx of population.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, okay, that's great.
And I stayed.
And, and a lot of people don't realize, but we're landlocked.
Oh, yeah,
We're
I
landlocked
guess
here.
so, aren't we?
We've got, Fort Bragg to the east. We've got state and government land to the south and to the west. And there was really not a lot of opportunity for us to really grow out.
Okay.
We can grow in, but we just can't grow out.
Oh.
Because we're bound by, a
Right.
lot
I
of...
didn't realize that we were like
buffered.
that.
Yeah, we're buffered by so much public and government land, which is a good thing.
Yes.
Because it protects us. But we also have to realize that and,
Yeah.
kind of not be in a little, in a box, in a bubble.
Yeah.
Figure
You can
out.
only grow as big as you can grow.
Exactly. And, when I was commuting to Raleigh, I saw just in 7 years the difference in the population and the traffic from Southern Pines to Raleigh changed so much over that time.
No kidding.
The Sanford area is really growing a
It
lot.
is, yeah.
And that's basically Raleigh moving south because there's, Raleigh's kind of boxed in too, and they've grown all around, and south is pretty much the only way Raleigh can grow, and you're starting to see it, a lot
Yeah,
more.
Sanford seems up and coming to
It
me.
is. It is a lot. Lee County is really growing. It's a small county, but it's, growing very rapidly.
Yeah. Oh,
And that's just our
gosh.
neighbors to the north,
So when voters hear your name, what do you hope they associate it with? What do you want people to know about who Mark Dutton is at his core?
I think what for me, what I would like the people to associate my name with is a friend, a neighbor, somebody they grew up with, somebody they went to school with.
It's true, though, isn't
Somebody
it?
they worked with, somebody their kids played sports with, somebody that they coached their kids.
Nice.
Somebody went to church together. All those things, where you look back and say, "Oh yeah, I know him." And that's, for me, that's what's important, is that people know you or know who your family was. I have a large family here on both sides of my family, my mom and my dad's families. My dad's family was a little smaller, but my mom's family was really big, and there's still a lot of people in Moore County area. And
What's your mom's maiden name?
Shepherd.
Shepherd. Okay.
Yeah, and the McMoore, Montgomery, Randolph, those counties is where my mom's family was from, and there's still a lot of people there. So Randolph County is part of this district as well. So I do have a lot of roots and family up around.
Really? Okay.
Oh yeah, my grandmother and grandfather, they had 11 brothers and sisters.
No
both
kidding.
Of them, and they all stayed in that area.
Oh, wow.
Bisco, Star, Troy, Robbins, Seagrove, they're all up around
Oh,
here.
no
Yeah, I mean,
kidding.
the descendants from them are still around. None of them left and went, very far. So I still have a lot of that. But for, going back, for me, it's just, being somebody that somebody knows they can depend on, they can contact, they know how to get a hold of. My public phone number, my phone number was public to over 11 million people for 30 years.
Goodness.
I had to have a house phone that's listed in the phone book. So
Mark.
I'm very available to people. So, for me, this is a small fraction of that where, I'm available to people. They know they can depend on me. They can call me. And we've had some local representatives here that was like that, and people trusted and knew the family, knew the names, and knew if they called, they'd pick the phone up or get back to them, or at least listen to their concern. You're not going to always be able to help everybody, but you can listen to people and listen to their concerns, and that's kind of what's important for me. Is that somebody that's from here, that's rooted here, that knows people, that either knows something about them or their family, or can look them up and say, "Oh yeah, I have some type of connection with that person through a friend or through a family member or those types of things." So that's kind of how I want to be remembered, as far as my
I like it.
my name, and what my value is at my core is service, community service, transparency, having compassion for people.
Yes.
I'm a very compassionate person, and sometimes to a detriment. But, that's part of me, and that's part of what I am. And, I like to help people. I like to listen to people. Sometimes I do, more than I probably should sometimes. And, maybe like I said, at my detriment or to my family or something like that.
Right.
But it's all about service for me. It goes back to, answering the call for a fire
Answering the
at
call.
3 o'clock in the morning, or a phone
11
call.
million people's call.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. My phone rang a lot. Back in the old days, when you had an answering machine, you had to come home and check your answering machine and call people back and all that kind of stuff. And times have changed, and technology's really changed a lot of how we do business, and and it's impacted a lot of different things over time. And when we lost our internet yesterday, the whole community lost
Oh, I
internet
know.
and phone, and it's like, what do we do?
Everybody was talking about it. It's like, oh no,
Can't watch TV.
I
Can't talk on the phone.
They kept looking at text. That was told me.
Yeah, we go back to like, what did we do before we had this?
I don't know.
And it's not been that very long ago.
No,
truthfully.
GPS. What did I ever do without a GPS on my phone? How did I get?
You had a map in your your glove box in your car, and you pulled it out. You went by road maps and signs and things. So we sometimes forget how to take care of ourselves and do things. And with AI and Chat GPT and all those things, people are going to get to a point where they can't do anything for themselves.
That's true.
And we got to make sure that we're.
That's right. My husband was reading that we're like 10 years ahead of where they thought we would be in AI. It's insane.
Yeah, I can remember the first phone that had a camera option on it, and I was like, that's the silliest thing I've ever heard.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, why do you want a camera on your phone or text? I'm like, why do you want to text somebody when you can pick up the phone and call them? Now that's just normal.
That's
it's
what you
natural.
do.
That's what we depend on.
That's what we do.
And our kids don't know any different. They're learning on computers.
Exactly.
And, that's all they know is
What's
phone
next?
and computers.
Yeah. What's next that we're going to think is silly? That boom goes crazy.
I don't know.
All right, Mark, it's time for my favorite part of the show, the quick fire round. These are fun, fast questions so listeners can get to know you beyond the uniform and the titles. Ready?
Sure.
Coffee or sweet tea?
Coffee.
Favorite place to relax in the Sandhills?
Maxie's.
Go-to song when you need motivation?
That's funny. I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Best piece of advice you've ever received?
Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right either way.
I've heard that, and yes, I totally agree with you. If you could spend a day anywhere in North Carolina, where would it be?
South Brunswick County beaches.
Oh, nice. Historical or public figure you admire?
Theodore Roosevelt.
Theodore, why?
Conservationist. The ultimate conservationist.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Absolutely.
Yes. So did you watch that Elkhorn on, there's a series on Netflix called Elkhorn about Theodore Roosevelt. Check it out.
Sure will.
Okay, if you weren't in public service, what would you be doing now?
Oh, gosh. I think I go back to the Luke Combs song, what would you do if you weren't doing this?
Yes.
I think I'd still be doing it.
You'd still be doing it.
Yeah, I don't know, military maybe. I think I would have probably gone into the military.
Yeah. So you like the structure, you like the service, you like helping people.
I do.
Favorite Southern meal?
I think just a good old barbecue meal, just Southern barbecue and coleslaw and baked beans and potatoes.
Oh, I'm hungry. One word that describes your leadership style?
Servant. Something
people might be surprised to learn about you.
Oh, gosh. I think the biggest thing I can remember, and one of the things that led me into public safety, is I was actually held up and robbed at gunpoint.
Oh, no.
Yeah, when I was 17 years old at the hotel down the road here on the highway. And, that kind of shaped me a little bit and formed me to wanting to probably get into public safety and law enforcement. Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, it was a little scary.
Instead of running, instead of getting scared, you decided, okay, I'm going to stop this.
That's right. I'm going to fight back. Yeah.
Wow. That's cool, Mark. Before we wrap up, I always write a special jingle for each of my guests as a thank you for joining me on the show. Here's yours.
Serving with honor, leading with pride, rooted in more where values abide. Strong and steady, trusted and true. That's Mark Dutton, through and through.
That's great. That's awesome. I really appreciate that.
Mark, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your story. Your commitment to service, from protecting our state's natural resources to mentoring young people, and now stepping into leadership for North Carolina, is truly inspiring. We wish you all the luck that you need to make this happen.
And I thank you very much for having me. It's an honor. It's my first podcast, so that's a great.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's new to me.
Cool.
Yeah, that's new to me.
Oh, nice.
I don't like to listen to myself talk, so that's probably part of it.
Well, you're going to have to be listening to yourself, Tom.
But I appreciate you having me. I appreciate you spending this time, and it's important to get the message out. And there's a lot of ways to reach people, and I think this is a great opportunity to reach people that may have, don't have any knowledge or don't have as much knowledge of what we're doing and what we're about. And I've got a website, and I've got a good team that's supporting me and surrounding me. Obviously, my family team first.
Yeah.
But we've got some motivation, and we've got some good things going, and hopefully, we're gonna ride it all the way to Jones Street in Raleigh.
That's to Jones Street in Raleigh. So to our listeners, if you'd like to learn more about Mark Dutton and his campaign for NC House District 78, you can find more online and follow along as he continues serving the people of Moore County. How do they look you up? What if they want to help you with your campaign? What are some things that people can do that they want to get involved?
Well, we've got a website, mark4nchouse.com. You can go to that. You can learn more about it. I've got some public events that I'm going to be attending and going to in Moore and Randolph counties. So getting out and being involved in the public and just going out and being where people are and talking to the voters and just spreading the word. The website's one thing, and people can, I've got a Facebook page, I've got an Instagram page, and all my stuff is public. I mean, I've got my private. Like I said, I've been public all my life, so I'm not hiding anything. I've got a public Facebook page. If you want to, come friend me and find out what I'm about and look at my website or subscribe to my website, I'm not hiding anything. There's my family's on there, everything's on there, and I enjoy interacting with the people.
So the first stop would probably be your website. And then is there a contact information there where if they want to help you and they want to ask you questions and things?
Yeah, there's actually a donate site if you want to donate and contribute to it. That's very important. Unfortunately, we got to have finances to be able to run a campaign. And if you want to contribute and donate, there's an opportunity there. You can subscribe to I have an email on there as well if you want to ask questions. My phone number is probably listed on there. If it's not, I probably put it on there. But you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. There's all types of things in social media. And if you're not in social media and you just want to pick up the phone and call, I'll be glad to talk to you or call you back if you leave a message and try to talk to as many people as I can.
As always, thank you for tuning in to the Imagine More podcast, where we celebrate the people who inspire, uplift, and connect our community. And Mark, that certainly has been the case today. I feel inspired. I feel motivated to go find out more about things going on. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great.
I'm Rose Young, and remember, together we can always imagine more.
Imagine more stories that soar, business, life, and so much more. Laughs, lessons, and local delight is the podcast that feels just right. It's the Imagine More podcast.